If you're a regular viewer of Unsealed, you might remember the $50 demo episode where we opened up a brand new copy of To Ball Number 1. And we talked a little bit about the significance of this game. And really, the significance has nothing to do with the game. While the game is decent and has an interesting quest mode that has some RPG-like elements, the reason that all of us spent $50 on this game in 1996, or at least most of us did, was because of this right here. This where it says Final Fantasy VII Sampler CD included. That is why we spent the $50 on this, ladies and gentlemen. And here is a look for those of you that might not have seen if we open this up. That is the disc that everyone was really interested in, the interactive sampler CD that not only had the first bombing mission, or the first Shinra bomb mission from the actual game, but also had some trailers for other Squaresoft games as well. So we were happy to spend the $50 because we were all totally psyched. We were coming off of Final Fantasy III, which was Final Fantasy VI, of course. We were very excited to see what Square was going to do with this new CD-ROM technology, and we were not disappointed. At least I sure wasn't after playing the demo in this particular game. Now, did I play To Ball Number 1? A little bit. It was a game that just was kind of there, but I went to the demo more often than I went to the actual game. Now, that's not the only time that Squaresoft would pull this kind of marketing stunt. We would see it later with this game. This is Brave Fencer Musashi, which is an action RPG that's actually quite fun. Has a really funny translation where there's all kinds of food going on. There's some voice work that's take it or leave it. I like the music in the game. The actual gameplay itself and the way that the game is played, it tends to get a little bit difficult. I struggled with this a bit. But for some people, at least, it wasn't Brave Fencer Musashi or the fact that it was an RPG that sold this particular game. I draw your attention to that red label there that says includes Final Fantasy VIII playable demo CD. Yes, that is why a lot of people bought this game. And here is what that CD looked like right there. The 1998 Collector's CD Volume 2. This was a lot of people's first introduction to Final Fantasy VIII, and at that point when I played this, I was pretty interested. Unfortunately, the final version of the game, with all its drawing spells and its card games, kind of threw me off, and I'm not really a big fan of the game myself, but nonetheless, Final Fantasy VIII is one of those highly divisive, yet the people who really like it really, really like it kind of games, and this was our first opportunity to play it. This game, by the way, if you can get it in its case with the demo, it's still running quite a bit of money. Not like it's stupid expensive, but still it's not cheap, so you have to kind of keep your eyes open if you're interested in getting the whole package. And I do recommend checking out Brave Fencer Musashi, by the way. It is definitely interesting and has some quirks and some humor that a lot of people might find interesting. Squaresoft wasn't the only company to leverage this approach, however. It would take a little bit, but I have to give you some background first. In 1998, Konami released a game for the PlayStation here in the US that was a system seller for the PlayStation. It was a game that had a lot of hype. The initial demo CD, when it was released, had people on the edge of their seat. It was a very interesting mix of stealth and action and a storyline that seemed like some of it could be true, yet it has this science fiction feel to it, and yet there's a lot of twists and turns. Of course, I am talking about 1998's Metal Gear Solid. This, unfortunately, is the greatest hits copy I have here. I don't have a Black Label copy at this point because those are actually pretty expensive. Metal Gear Solid, when I played that for the first time in 1998, I was working for FuncoLand, and my manager actually wanted to play it, so we took turns playing through the game when we got it in. And after playing it, while I'm not the biggest stealth fan, I was certainly hooked by the story, and I wanted to play it more and more to see if I could get better, to unlock more things in the game. So, of course, I bought it in 1998, along with like NFL Blitz and Mortal Kombat 4 and Star Wars Rogue Squadron and South Park, and the list goes on and on and on and on. So this is one of those system-selling games for the PlayStation, and you knew that there was going to be a sequel, and sure enough, there was going to be a sequel for the PlayStation 2. But did you know that there was a way to play a demo before the game came out? There was, and Konami took a page out of Squaresoft's playbook and packaged it with a game. The game in question, and the game that we're going to be unsealing for this episode, is Zone of the Enders, this guy right here. I believe this is from 2001, although I don't have it yet, 2001 right here. And as you can see, includes a demo for Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, which would come out later on in the year. This is the actual Black Label copy of the game. But what's interesting is, just like Brave Fencer Musashi, while a lot of people might have ignored this game and played just the Metal Gear Solid 2 demo, the underlying game is actually pretty interesting and looks very good. It's a mech-based game, so maybe some people are not into that, but it's action-based. It has an interesting storyline, I think. Some of it is a little hammy and overacted, but I certainly was interested enough to keep playing it. And for 2001, for early 2001, this game looked fantastic and really showed what some of the potential of the PlayStation 2 would be. Remember, this is probably less than 6 months after the PlayStation 2 originally launched in the United States, and the PlayStation 2 is still a very hot ticket item at this point, where a lot of people are not finding new units to buy. It was still very much in demand, and we'll talk more about the PlayStation 2 as we circle around to its 20th release anniversary later this year. So this is the box art. We do have the Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty promise, but we also have some really cool artwork with, it looks like Anubis there. I don't remember because I haven't played Zone of the Enders in quite a while. We do have the Konami seal down there in the lower right-hand corner. I missed that terribly. It is a mature-rated game. And we have a whole bunch of storyline here, as well as some screenshots. And again, we have a screen for the Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty playable demo included, which was certainly exciting, and that explains why there are 2 discs there. So when we take a look at the back of the case, it says here, "Life and death at the end of the universe. Zone of the Enders transports you to the farthest reaches of the solar system. Playing as the reluctant hero Leo Stenbuck, you'll command a giant mechanized robot into high-speed aerial combat against a heavily armed rogue military regime. But massive weaponry isn't the only thing in your hands. The fate of your entire space colony depends on your actions. And you're about to discover that decisions of life and death carry more consequences than you ever dreamed." And yeah, there is some death and violence in this game. I mean, you've got blood and violence listed as part of the mature rating right down there. I'll show you real quick. There's a combat system that has close quarter and long-range laser attacks. So you can fight either close up with swords or other weapons, or you can fight from a distance, and that's part of what mechs can do, obviously. Battle AI accompanies you in combat, learning from and reacting to your actions. That's Ada, and if you play the game, you'll learn more about her. Richly crafted, immersive story unfolds through stunning 3D anime-style cutscenes. Again, this is the best way to play this game, obviously. While there was a Zone of the Enders HD collection that came out for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, really, in my opinion, because I've played them, I actually prefer playing the original here, especially on a CRT TV, because the graphics do really pop, because that's for the specific resolution that's there. Versus mode enables heated 2-player battles. Missions change each time they are replayed, introducing a universe of new experiences. And it's produced by Hideo Kojima, creator of the renowned Metal Gear series. This was Hideo Kojima's second project while he was working on the Metal Gear games. This is something that he really wanted to do, and I'm glad he did. I enjoyed this, and I enjoyed the sequel just as well, The Second Runner, which is also available for the PlayStation 4, and looks fantastic, by the way. So, without further ado, we're going to open this up, and of course, we will look at both the Zone of the Enders disc and the Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty disc. So let's go ahead and get this open. I have been sitting on this for a while, so this is going to be kind of cool. I remember that I picked up this game from KB in West Springfield, Massachusetts, which unfortunately is no longer there. And I did it. I actually was on a break, like a lunch break at work, and I figured I would just kind of drive down and get myself some lunch at Burger King. And I stopped into the KB there, and sure enough, it was still available, so I was pretty excited about that. Kind of stuck. There we go, I think. There we go. All right, and this does still have the Zone of the Enders sticker on the top, indicating 2 discs on the inside. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. There we go. All right, and when we open the case, and I need to make sure that nothing falls out. Okay. So, and the demo disc, it's actually pretty funny. The demo disc is actually the first thing you see. When you open it, you have the Zone of the Enders instruction manual, and you also have the Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty disc right there. The disc is a CD, so I believe it's blue-backed, and yes, it is. You can see the blue there. And it takes you through part of the tanker level, or the first act of the game. And the thing about Metal Gear Solid 2 that a lot of people will remember, some people like it, some people don't, is the fact that Solid Snake, or Snake, really isn't the main protagonist of the game for long. He's only with you as the protagonist for the first act of the game. After that, you transition to Raiden, who's a completely different character. And while Snake does play a role in the story later on, a lot of people felt cheated because everyone really liked Snake. It was a really neat character. They liked his gruff personality, and not having him spotlighted in the game really ticked a lot of people off. So again, there is the demo disc, and when we peel that back, we also have the Zone of the Enders disc, which is right there. And I love the artwork on that. The Solar System logo with the mech. With Mars and the sky there as well. So when we take a look at the instruction manual is surprisingly small. And and the instruction manual is cut in half. So we have the Zone of the Enders manual right here, and then we flip it over, we have a manual for Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty Trial Edition, which is here. The manual is in color, which is great. There's a lot of words and not a lot of screenshots, but that's what the inside of the manual looks like. I can see if I can... It's really kind of dark, though, so it's difficult to see everything. And the story, I don't even think they give us much of a story to go on. I think the game tells more of the story. Some manuals will give you story. There is a little bit here. It says, in the remote reaches of the solar system in the 22nd century, there is a colony on Jupiter called Antilia. In the sudden outbreak of war, a shy youth named Leo Stenbuck loses his friends right before his eyes. Thoughts of, if they just weren't around, I wouldn't be picked on anymore, had crossed through his mind just moments before his friends were killed. Blaming himself for not being able to save them, he panicked and ran away from the scene of the attack, inadvertently stumbling onto the cause of the war, the orbital frame Jekuti. That's who that is. Anubis is a different character. A colossal war machine with a human form that holds the key to civilization's existence. So it's a great setup, and it's really interesting science fiction, at least I think, told with that Hideo Kojima bent. And then if you flip this over, and you do have to and you do open it just like a book, and you have an explanation of the controls. It is in that that camouflage green. It shows you some of the basic actions. And the demo, just like for Final Fantasy VII inside of Tobal #1, was easily worth the price of admission. Seeing Metal Gear Solid in 60 frames per second, seeing all the different things that Snake could do in terms of interrogating people now and taking dog tags and some other things was a very, very big deal. And Metal Gear Solid 2, for me, if I can take just a few minutes before we close here, Metal Gear Solid 2 was the first big game that I reviewed. I reviewed this game for Sony Web, which is a website that is long since passed. It was a game that I bought. We didn't have a review copy of it, and I was tasked with playing it and writing a review of it in 48 hours total. So that was certainly a harrowing ride. It was a fun ride to take. I had a lot of fun playing through the game, although I definitely felt the pressure of the deadline. And I really wasn't bothered by the twist with Snake versus Raiden. I thought some of the things toward the end of the game, and I don't want to give out too many spoilers for those of you who may not have played it yet. You can play Metal Gear Solid 2, by the way, on the Xbox One if you have that, because it's backwards compatible. The 360 version of the HD collection is backwards compatible. I really didn't have a problem with the character swapping. I liked some of the new features of the game. I thought it looked fantastic, and I think it still holds up in a lot of respects. The fact that it was animated so smooth, and there were so many different things that Snake could do and that Raiden could do really leapt out to me, at least in my opinion. But that will always be meaningful because that's the first game that I was given a deadline. You have 2 days. You need to play through the game. You need to write a review. You need to turn it in. And that was my very harsh introduction to being a video game reviewer for the time that I was able to do that. So it was Zone of the Enders that really gave me that opportunity first because I had some background in the game thanks to the demo before I played the actual game when it arrived later in 2001. So that's a neat look at Zone of the Enders and a look at some of the other games that sold maybe because the demo was included. Hopefully people didn't feel that way about Zone of the Enders because it really is a pretty solid game and was definitely improved upon with the sequel and is worth a look for science fiction fans, for anime fans, and for Hideo Kojima fans, for those of you out there. As always, my friends, thank you for checking out this episode of Unsealed. I really do appreciate it. Until the next time, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you later.